Staying at the heavyweight division before we move down the divisions, Agit Kabayel, someone who's been a real benefactor of the Riyadh season cards, has dispatched of another heavyweight in the form of Zhilei Zhang this time with a body assault leading to the finish in, I think it was the sixth round. But Kabayel sort of coming out of left field here. Do you think he has the potential as well to capture world title off the back of his finish over Zhilei Zhang?
Well, you know, it was the manner that he put Zhang away. You know, Zhang's a big guy, and what he did, your man Caballel, he exposed him with the body shots. I did state previously that he was a good body puncher. Unlike most of the other heavyweights, you know, Caballel, what he does, when he hits you with a body shot and he hits you with a headshot, he maintains it. He doesn't just go head hunting. He doesn't just go to the body. He switches it up and down, which you don't see generally with all of the other heavyweights. They do one or the other, but he targets that throughout each and every round. So that's on his part. That's a good trait to have. Trust me. You know, he started working Zhang over from the first round with body shots, peppering him with headshots. You know, just keep going up and down on him, and in the end got a result. I mean, obviously he got a scare, he got nailed, but you know what he showed was a champion's heart, and he got up and he closed the show. And it's, you know, it's a good victory for him because, as you know, Zhang was one of them danger men. He's a bogey man, and he can whack. He proved that. He decked Caballel, but he couldn't keep him on the deck. And that's one of the worst things you can do with a heavyweight because all heavyweights hit hard. And he got up and he just let his hands go, and he got a really good result. I mean, what I will say, which is a little bit sort of detrimental to Zhang, I suppose, is that, you know, he made him look really old. You know, he's 41 and he was blowing heavy as early as like the second round, I noticed with Zhang. So that fight was never going the distance. Somebody was always going to get knocked out.
Does Zhang still have life left at heavyweight, you feel? You mentioned there being north of 40. Do you feel he still has the potential to compete at the top of the chain?
Well, as soon as Usyk gives up the belts, then, you know, there's going to be 4 belts up for grab. Usyk's only 2 fights away now, as he's clearly stated, and he is almost certainly a man of his word that he will retire after his next 2 fights. He ain't coming back. So once he retires and gives up the belts, then everybody's back in the mix. You know, there's going to be 4 belts up for grabs, and that brings everybody back into it. It really does, and you know. It's heavyweight boxing's really flying the flag right now because there's so many attractive fights to make. You know, could you imagine Cabell against Moses Atuma, or you know, Dubois against Joseph Parker? You know, like I say, there's some really good fights to be made in the heavyweight division.
Let's move to a point of controversy in the night. Hamzah Sheeraz took on Carlos Adames for the
Boy,
WBC middleweight champion. I'll let you take the stage here, Duke. Did Hamzah Sheeraz deserve the draw on the night? Was the draw the right call?
no, a draw was not the right call. I don't know where those judges were from. I don't know what they were watching, but I just can't. You know, I was banging my head. Listen, we want Shiraz to win. He's from over here, right? And he's obviously a nice kid, but nice kids don't win fights. I don't know what those judges were watching. How one of those judges giving one of the fights, how that fight's become a draw is just. I don't want to swear because I'm not that angry. It doesn't affect me. It should affect the judges. They were wrong, and obviously Shiraz can't do anything about it. But he must be absolutely getting down on his hands and knees and thanking whatever God that he's got. He must be thanking him to the high heavens because it was not a draw. I made him win. I made him lose comfortably by at least 7 or 8 rounds, with only 1 round shared and possibly a couple of 1 round won and a couple of rounds shared. So, boy, you know what? It's fights like that, in my opinion, which give boxing a bad name. And boxing's only just started to drag itself out of the gutter because now we're getting quality fights. But then they drag it back into the gutter, in my opinion, when you see decisions like that. Of course I wanted him to win. I didn't think he would win, and I don't think that he won that fight because obviously your man must be absolutely banging his head against the brick wall today. You know, they was looking to nick that title off of him. That's how it looked to me. And That's not right. That's not right.
What didn't Shiraz do to win the fight, or what did Carlos Adames do to stop Shiraz winning the fight? And post-fight as well, it was mentioned on the broadcast that Shiraz had broken his right hand, although he offered no excuses and said that wasn't the contributing factor to him losing. So fair play to him on that. But what was it that made Shiraz lose the fight on the night?
Well, let's start with this broken hand business.
Hmm.
There was no talk in the corner of my hands hurt. Not once did he show out that his hand was hurt or that he was in any distress. Not once did the corner say to him, "Are you okay? You know, what's wrong?" or anything like that. So that then leads me to believe that that might be a smokescreen because he was so negative. However, in his defence, what I will say is he's got no business fighting at middleweight. He looked drained to me, totally drained. I know I've been drained in world title fights before, and I know how lackluster you can be. So my point of reference is that I know that feeling. There was no spark, there was no urgency from the first bell to the last bell, which it's not just about making weight on that day for that fight. It's dragging to make weight for all of the other fights that he's had in the run-up to this fight. He looked like he'd overtrained to me because he had to make weight. He looked drained in the face to me. Normally, when you rehydrate, you look big, you look strong. You know your shoulders go up, your chest gets puffed out, and you're ready to go. He didn't have that demeanor about him. So again, in his defence, his lackluster performance for me was purely down to the fact that he was weight drained. Because, like I say, it's the run-up, the run-ups that he's had to this particular fight, making weight. Then you get the big one, and you're still making weight, and you've got nothing left. Do you see what I mean? His tank looked empty from the first bell, and you know he looked tired from as early as the third round. To me, he didn't win that fight. He didn't win that fight. You know, he didn't deserve a draw, and he certainly didn't deserve to win the fight.
So you would advise against going for a rematch?
Well, depends on where it is. You know, we've just seen a most controversial draw, right, in Riyadh. So if I was Adames, I wouldn't go back to Riyadh and face him again, and I certainly wouldn't come over here to Great Britain and face him in a world title fight because you know dodgy decisions happen. So where they go with it, where he goes with it, I don't know. He's still champion. He still kept his belt, thank God. You know, at least there was some kind of, you know, logical outcome in this. Could you imagine if they'd have given Adames, not Adames, if you'd have given Shiraz the belt? Could you imagine the uproar? Could you? I mean, I for one that wouldn't have sat really well with me. I mean, he doesn't care what I think, and he's not supposed to. This is just my opinion. When you challenge for a world title, you got to be seen to be taking the title from the champion. You got to rip his head off by hook or by crook, and there has to be a turning point in the fight. At no point was there a turning point in that fight. You know, I only see really Shiraz going after him once or twice in that fight, but there was no, like I say, there was no real urgency behind what he was doing. He looked very lackluster, and I would seriously consider, if I was him, about whether you really want to stay at that weight division because the kid's obviously got potential. He's obviously world class, and there's obviously a lot more to come from him, but it's not middleweight.
There was a brilliant opening fight between Callum Smith versus Joshua Buatsi, which ebbed and flowed, but saw Callum Smith get the victory on points. What a fight, Duke, between the two of them. A lot of conversation about where Callum Smith was off the back of his defeat to Artur Beterbiev, but he proved a lot of doubters wrong against a real game and durable Joshua Buatsi.
Well, hats off to Callum Smith because I thought Buatsi would wipe the floor with him. But he didn't. And Smith kind of rolled back the clock, and he's got a very worthy decision. Buatsi was quite disappointing in terms of, you know, when he needed to push and pull, when he needed to really open up, he just didn't let his hands go enough. And obviously, listen, it's the right decision. It's a good decision congratulations to Smith. You know, the show goes on from him. Where he goes from here, nobody knows, because, you know, he's already had a taste at Bitev and come off second best. So that would happen again. He's got to have a few marking time fights, but that in itself is dangerous because he could slip up quite easily. You know, not being motivated unless it's a big one, which, you know, a lot of boxers have that problem. You know, you promise the world title fight, and then you've got to sit around. You have to have a marking time fight, and then you slip up. So, as was in the case with Bakoli. So, you know, congratulations, Smith. You know, it's a good result. You're beating a world-ranked contender, and it's a question of sitting tight now, I guess.
Duke, that's about all the questions I have. Was there anything that caught your eye that we didn't discuss from the fight card? Potentially maybe Josh Padley's spirited effort against Shakur Stevenson, but was there anything else that caught your eye?
Not really. I mean, it's all credit to Padley. It was a Rocky type theme fight, you know, the guy that's got no chance to win a world title suddenly gets a chance to fight for the championship of the world. He didn't pull it off, but he's the people's champion because everybody loves a trier, and he tried his heart out. Was never going to beat Shakur Stevenson, but in some ways he exposed Stevenson again as being a light puncher. I don't want to take anything away from Stevenson because what he does is just synthetically beautiful. He's like a ballerina, isn't he? And he punches like a ballerina. You know, it's just his powder puff. He just lets his hands go. It's all pretty, but then when you start talking about the real big boys like Davis, you know, he's not going to beat Davis, is he? Gervonta Davis. Anyway, as I said, nobody beats Gervonta Davis in my eyes, but that's another conversation. But I thought the whole show was quite magnificent, and I think obviously with the exception of I mean, Madrimov, he come off. He didn't really perform, did he? He got beat, which is again a little bit of a surprise to me as I tipped him to win. But all credit to Ortiz. He did what Ortiz does. He's a real dog, in that Ortiz. He bites you and he won't let you go. It doesn't really matter who he fights. He's as game as a pebble. So no, I was thoroughly entertained with all the fights, with the exception of the controversy of the Shiraz fight. I thought it was an excellent card, and long may it continue.
Duke, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure the people watching as well enjoyed it too, and looking forward to seeing you hopefully over in Saudi covering these cards as well, doing what you do best. Thank you so much for speaking to Seconds Out on your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of the day, and looking forward to our next conversation in the future.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you, mate. God bless, and God bless everybody at home. Take care.